My mom and dad left me in a remote area as a prank, expecting me to find home. But I vanished for 12 years planning perfect revenge while they frantically called. Be me, 24 years old, working at my old man Richard's hardware store, living at home because college wasn't an option. Richard said banks wouldn't give loans to people like me. Have an asshole brother named Thomas. He's the golden child who can do no wrong. We're not poor exactly, but definitely not taking vacations to Universal Studios either. One day, Richard announces we're taking a family road trip, going to Uncle's wedding in Montana. Should have known something was wrong right there. 3 days into this hellish journey, already regretting not making up some excuse to stay home. Richard and Thomas taking turns with their favorite game, making my life absolute hell. Mom Clara occasionally says, "That's enough," in her weak voice. Everyone knows it's just for show. Need to explain about my family. Richard isn't just your standard controlling dad. He's the type to wake you up at 4 a.m., screaming about some chore you forgot. Would throw away my stuff if it was in his way. Been telling me I'm worthless since I could understand words. Thomas learned quick. Either become dad's mini-me or become like me. Guess which path the little shit chose? That morning we stopped at some nowhere rest area. Middle of Montana. Nothing but fields and mountains for miles. Just this sad little bathroom building and some ancient vending machines. Been sleeping in the back of our Ford Explorer. Needed to stretch and use the bathroom. Richard and Thomas laughing about something. Mom checking her makeup in the mirror. Remember exactly what I was wearing. Faded Led Zeppelin shirt. Jeans with holes in both knees. Beat up Converse. I'd had since forever. Didn't take my phone. It was charging in the car. Didn't take my wallet. Why would I? We're in the middle of nowhere. Just taking a quick leak. 15 minutes. That's how long I was in that bathroom. Maybe less. Walk out squinting in the Montana sun. The parking spot is empty. Our blue Explorer gone. At first thought they moved the car, playing some stupid prank. Walk around the entire rest area. Nothing. That's the thing about family betrayal. Hits different than any other kind. Waited an hour sitting on the curb, telling myself they were just trying to scare me. They would be back. People came and went, few giving me weird looks. Trucker asks if I'm okay. Lie and say I'm waiting for my girlfriend. She's in the bathroom. He nods and leaves. After hour 2, get that cold feeling in my gut. They weren't coming back. First instinct was to borrow someone's phone. Wanted to call them. Beg them to come get me. About to approach a mom with 2 kids. Something stops me. Lifetime of memories flash through my head. Every humiliation. Every time they laughed at my expense. Every joke that was just cruelty with a punchline. Can almost hear Thomas's voice. Dude, I bet he's crying right now. Hear Richard's response. He'll figure it out if he's not as stupid as he looks. Clara's weak protest that never changed anything. Make a decision right there. Approach that mom anyway. Ask to use her phone. But don't call my family. Call information instead. Get the number for nearest shelter in Billings. About 45 miles away. Ask if she could possibly give me a ride into town. Tell her my family had an emergency. Had to leave, but were sending someone later. She hesitates. Must have looked harmless enough. Because she agrees. That first night at the shelter was a reality check. Had nothing but clothes on my back. No ID. No money. No contacts. Shelter guy named Marcus let me use their computer. Look up my uncle's address from wedding invitation I'd seen. Thought maybe I could get to the wedding. Find my family there. Sit staring at the screen. Then think, why? Why chase after people who literally abandoned me? Left me on the side of the road for laughs? Instead, create new email account. Look up resources for emergency ID replacement. Google jobs that pay cash. Make a plan. 2 days later, I'm washing dishes at this small diner. Place called Morning Glory. Owner is this 60-something woman named Rose. She's got purple streaks in her gray hair. More tattoos than you'd expect. Had wandered in asking if they needed help. Told her my wallet was stolen but needed work. She sized me up for a minute. Says dishwasher quit yesterday. You steal from me, you're dead. Start now. That's the thing about rock bottom. You can only go up from there. Work doubles for a week straight. Sleep at the shelter. Wear donated clothes. Marcus helps me start process of getting replacement. ID. Contacts vital records in my home state. Set up a cheap pay-as-you-go phone. Buy it from Target with first cash earned. 7 days after they abandoned me. Phone rings. Unknown number. Answer it. It's Clara. voice shaking, asking where I am. If I'm okay? Says they've been looking everywhere. It was just supposed to be a joke. Says they waited down the road for 20 minutes. Came back and couldn't find me. Listen to her panic. Her fake concern. Hear Richard in the background, telling her to tell me to stop being dramatic. Get my ass to Uncle Stephen's. Hear Thomas laughing. Are you there? Say something. We've been worried sick. That cold feeling in my gut is gone now. There's just clarity. You wanted to see if I could make it on my own. Say it with steadiest voice I've ever had with them. So watch me. Hang up. Block the number. Then block every family number I can remember. Go to Verizon store next day. Change my number completely. See 27 missed calls before changing it. Imagine them getting more and more pissed, realizing their punching bag isn't coming back. A month later, have my own studio apartment. It's above a laundromat, tiny as hell. Smells like fabric softener all the time. But it's mine. Work my way up to prep cook at Morning Glory. Rose teaching me how to properly chop vegetables, without losing any fingers. Sometimes check my old email. The one my family knew. Messages pile up from Clara. Please come home, we're sorry. From Richard. This childish stunt needs to end now. From Thomas. Dude, it was just a joke. Stop being such a... Never respond. Not once. That's the thing about freedom. Once you've tasted it, there's no going back to the cage. Look, won't pretend it was easy. Some nights I'd scroll through Instagram, see pictures of people with normal families, families who actually loved each other. Feel this ache nothing could fill. Had nights where loneliness felt like it would swallow me whole. Holidays were the worst. But every morning I'd wake up, in my shitty little apartment that smelled like Downy, go to my dishwashing job, where nobody called me worthless, build my life one brick at a time. 3 months after they left me at that rest stop, check my email one last time. New message from Clara. Your grandmother is asking about you. Please just let us know you're alive. Close the email. Delete the account. Throw my old SIM card in dumpster behind Morning Glory. That night, Rose teaches me how to make her famous cherry pie. Says I have good hands for pastry. First genuine compliment I can remember getting in years. Never looked back. 5 years after being abandoned at that Montana rest stop, find myself staring at familiar face on Facebook feed. Not because I was stalking my family's profiles. Okay, maybe I was. Thomas got tagged in local news article back home. Got a DU. I wrapped his car around telephone pole. Nobody heard except the pole. Newspaper used his high school football photo. Looks so young. So smug. Nothing like bloated mugshot underneath. That's the thing about karma. Moves at its own pace. But never forgets an address. By then, I'd built something resembling a life in Montana. Crappy studio above laundromat traded for 1 bedroom. Actual windows and everything. Worked my way up from dishwasher to line cook. Then to assistant manager at Morning Glory. Rose still runs the place with iron fist and flour-dusted glove. Started treating me less like charity case. More like weird nephew or something. First big purchase when I had savings was decent laptop. Nothing fancy. Just enough to take online classes through community college. Business management. Basic accounting. The stuff Richard always said was for people who can't do real work. Spend mornings at Morning Glory. Afternoons studying. Evenings back at work. Rinse and repeat. Look, won't pretend I wasn't still messed up from what happened. Trust issues? More like trust subscriptions that I could cancel anytime. Someone got too close. Made exactly 2 friends in 5 years. My neighbor Oliver, who played bass in terrible garage band, sometimes brought me homemade beer, tasted like hoppy dishwater. And Rose if she counted as friend and not boss. That changed when Lily started coming into Morning Glory. Every Tuesday and Thursday like clockwork. Always ordered same thing. Western omelet. No peppers. Extra coffee. Always sat at counter with textbook. Med school, I later found out. Had this way of completely zoning out while studying. Fork halfway to her mouth for minutes at a time. Started timing her once. Record was 7 minutes 23 seconds. Before she realized she was holding cold eggs, 4 months of me bringing her coffee refills. Before she actually looked up and saw me, really saw me, her eyes did this thing, widened just a little. Said my name tag was spelled wrong. It wasn't, but it became our weird little joke. I'd wear different wrong name every Tuesday and Thursday. She'd point it out. I'd act surprised. Stupidest flirting in human history, but it worked. Our first date wasn't even supposed to be a date. Her study group bailed last minute. Had reservation at this pizza place? Place impossible to get into. I happened to be wiping down counter. When she got cancellation text, next thing I knew, sitting across from her at Giuseppe's, both of us awkwardly realizing this looked exactly like a date. 6 months later, she moved into my apartment. Year after that, we got slightly bigger place together. Nothing fancy. Just 2-bedroom with bathroom, where toilet didn't run constantly, and neighbors who didn't practice bass solos at 2 a.m. Meanwhile, kept tabs on my family through fake accounts. Not proud of it. But there it is. Richard's hardware store started struggling after some big chain opened on edge of town. Saw him ranting about it on community Facebook pages. Posts getting increasingly desperate and bitter. Clara's social media became this weird shrine to family. Constant throwback pictures of us all smiling, posts about missing her boys. Plural, which was rich. She'd tagged Thomas but never mentioned me, like I'd been erased. Thomas bounced from job to job. Lots of vague posting about haters. And new opportunities. Classic social media smokescreen of someone whose life is circling the drain. 3 years in, Rose takes me aside during inventory. Tells me she's thinking about opening a second location, other side of town. Asks if I'd be interested in running it. Not owning, running. Important distinction. Don't sleep that night? Keep thinking it's some kind of test or joke. People like me don't get opportunities like that. Richard made sure I understood that much. That's the thing about poisonous beliefs. They stay in your system long after you've escaped the snake. But I say yes, because Lily, half asleep beside me, mumbles that I'd be stupid not to. Because Oliver, through haze of weed smoke? When I mentioned it, said, duh. You practically run original place already. Because Rose isn't Richard. Isn't my family. Has never once made me feel worthless. Morning Glory East opened 6 months later. Smaller than original. Different menu. My menu. Worked 90-hour weeks that first year. Lost 10 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. Fought with Lily about never being home. Came home to passive-aggressive sticky notes on fridge. More than once, but it worked. People came back. Food was good. Vibe was good. Weren't getting rich, but we were making it. 4 years after being abandoned. Made enough to help Lily with her med school loans. Not all of them. Those things are monstrous, but enough to make a dent. She cried when I showed her payment confirmation. Not movie crying with perfect mascara. Real crying. Snotty, red-faced, hiccuping crying. Never felt more like a real person than in that moment. Then my grandmother died. Found out through Facebook. Clara posted this long, dramatic tribute, with million heart emojis. Grandma Helen had been only one in family. Whoever stood up to Richard? Only one who seemed to see me. Used to slip me $20 bills when no one was looking. Tell me to save it for my escape. Think she meant college. Turns out it was more literal than that. Thought about going to funeral. Even looked up flights. Lily said she'd come with me. Hold my hand through whole awful reunion. Oliver offered his crappy hatchback. If I wanted to drive instead. Rose just shrugged. Said dead people don't know if you're there or not. Do what brings you peace. I didn't go. Instead sent flowers. Generic sympathy arrangement. Signed card with just my name. No return address. No note. The explosion on social media was immediate. Clara posting about signs. And reaching out from beyond. Thomas making cryptic comments about prodigal sons. Richard saying nothing publicly. But could imagine storm behind closed doors. Week later got friend request. From profile I didn't recognize. Some random name. No posts. No friends. Almost deleted it. Until saw message. It's Uncle Stephen. Your mom gave me your old email, but it bounced back. Are you okay? We've been worried. Your dad has been asking around about you. Blocked the account. That night had first panic attack in 2 years. Sitting on bathroom floor at 3 a.m., trying not to wake Lily. Feeling like lungs were collapsing. Imagining Richard hunting me down. Showing up at Morning Glory. Destroying everything I'd built. Lily found me there an hour later. Didn't ask questions. Just sat with me. Her shoulder touching mine. When I could finally breathe again, she said simplest thing, they can't take anything from you that you don't give them. Next morning called a lawyer. Got advice on restraining orders just in case. Tightened privacy settings on everything. Asked Rose to alert staff. Not to give out information about me to anyone. Practical steps. Control what you can control. 5 years to the day after being abandoned. Married Lily. Small ceremony at State Park. Oliver was my best man. Rose made the cake. Cried through whole thing. Mascara running down her wrinkled cheeks. Lily's large, loud family adopted me instantly. Her dad making dad jokes. That somehow didn't make me flinch. Her mom hugging me. Without setting off alarm bells in my head. That's the thing about family. Sometimes it finds you when you've stopped looking. Week after wedding. Scrolling through dummy account late at night. Saw it. Post from Richard on community page. Looking for information on my son. Last known location, Billings, Montana. Family emergency. There was no emergency. Knew that much. What I didn't know was why, after 5 years of nothing, they were suddenly looking for me. So I dug deeper, created another fake account, joined community groups from hometown, pieced it together bit by bit. Hardware store had closed. Their house was in foreclosure. Clara had some medical issues. She was vague, posting about Thomas had moved back home after his 3rd DUI. They weren't looking for me because they missed me. They were looking for me because they needed something. And you know what? For first time in 5 years, I smiled when I thought about them. Not because I was happy about their misfortune, but because I realized something important. I didn't care anymore. Closed laptop. Crawled into bed next to my sleeping wife. Made a decision. Would keep watching from distance. Not out of hate. Not out of love. But because sometimes best revenge isn't what you do, it's what you build while they're busy destroying themselves. It started with LinkedIn notification. 15 years after being abandoned at that Montana rest stop. My carefully constructed life had a glitch. Someone had viewed my profile 27 times in one day. Not unusual for recruiters to do weird stuff. What was unusual was the name Thomas Matthew. My brother. That's the thing about the past. It's patient. Wait in tall grass for years before it strikes. By then my life looked nothing like that first year. Lily finished med school. Done her residency. Now worked at local clinic 3 days a week, so she could be home with our kids more. We had 2, Nathan 7, and Lucy 4. Apartment above laundromat was long gone. Now had modest 4-bedroom on outskirts of town. Nothing fancy, but had yard where kids could play, and I could grow tomatoes? That never quite turned out right. Morning Glory had expanded to 3 locations. Still not some massive franchise, but enough that I didn't have to work the line anymore. Except when someone called in sick. Rose had semi-retired 2 years earlier, though she still showed up unannounced. To criticize way we made her pie crust recipe, I'd made peace with my past, or so I thought. Still kept tabs on family from distance, but constant checking had faded, maybe once every few months. Last I knew, Richard and Clara moved to smaller place. After losing the house, Thomas had gotten married, divorced, then married again. They'd all seemingly moved on with their lives, as I had with mine. The LinkedIn thing rattled me, though. 15 years of silence, and now this. Mentioned it to Lily, as we were doing our regular Sunday night thing, folding laundry while half watching. Whatever Netflix show we were behind on, she paused, mismatched sock in each hand, asked if I was okay. I nodded, because what else could I say? That I was suddenly 24 years old again, stranded at rest stop, that I could feel Richard's voice in my head, calling me worthless. 3 days later, I'm at Morning Glory East, original 2nd location, helping with inventory, because supplier sent wrong kind of coffee filters again. When Jennifer at front calls back, says there's some family asking for me, first thought is Lily's parents. They sometimes surprise us when passing through. Head out front, mental gears already shifting, thinking how to convince them to stay for dinner. It wasn't Lily's family. Richard looked older, grayer, his formerly imposing frame somehow shrunken. Clara's face had that pinched look. Comes from years of worry, hair dyed unnatural shade of brown. And Thomas looked like Richard had at 40. Same stance, same way of taking up space. There was woman with them I didn't recognize, young, maybe early 20s, hanging back like she wasn't sure she belonged. In this moment, nobody spoke. Lunch rush noise seemed to fade away, until all I could hear was my own heartbeat, thudding in my ears. Richard broke first, said my name like question. I nodded, because my voice had apparently gone on vacation. Look, I'd imagined this moment 1,000 different ways. Over 15 years, In some versions, I told them off. Spectacular. In others, I was cool and distant, unbothered by their existence. In few embarrassing late-night scenarios, we even had tearful reconciliation. Reality is always messier than imagination. I gestured to empty table in corner, told Jennifer to bring waters, sat down across from people who had once been my family, and waited. They'd found me through magazine article. Mountain Life Rising, 10 local success stories. Wasn't even big feature, just sidebar with photo of me in front of Morning Glory original location. But apparently one of Clara's friends from high school had moved to Montana, seen it and sent it to her with "Isn't this your son?" 107 missed calls. That's how many they'd made to my old number. Over years before it was disconnected, Clara had kept count. She mentioned this like it was supposed to mean something. They talked over each other. Clara about how worried they'd been, Richard about how I'd misunderstood what happened that day, Thomas awkwardly trying to act like we were old buddies catching up. The young woman, Thomas's second wife Katie, just watched me with curious eyes. I let them talk, watched them spin their version of reality. Where they weren't the villains, noticed how Richard kept eyeing restaurant, mentally calculating what it might be worth. Saw how Clara's hand trembled slightly when she reached for her water, caught Thomas's practiced charm slipping whenever he thought I wasn't looking directly at him. Finally, when they ran out of steam, asked the only question that mattered. Why now? That's when real story came out. In bits and pieces between awkward silences. Richard had medical bills, heart problems, no insurance. Second house was being foreclosed on too. Thomas's business venture, something vague involving cryptocurrency, had failed spectacularly. Clara needed knee surgery. She couldn't afford. They weren't there for reconciliation. They were there for money. I should have been angry. Should have thrown them out. Instead, felt something unexpected. Pity. They looked so small, so desperate. These giants who had once controlled my whole world were just flawed, broken people. I invited them to dinner at my house that night. Said I needed to think, to talk to Lily. They agreed eagerly. Richard already halfway to considering it done deal. That afternoon was surreal. Picked Nathan up from his karate class, helped Lucy with her preschool show and tell preparation, all while texting Lily updates about who was coming to dinner. She offered to take kids to her sisters. I said no, wanted them there, wanted my family to meet my family. Dinner was lasagna, my specialty that wasn't really special. Just recipe from back of Barilla box that I'd tweaked over years. Nathan set table without being asked, carefully placing forks on wrong side, until Lily quietly corrected him. Lucy insisted on wearing her unicorn costume, because it was Tuesday, and apparently Tuesday was now Unicorn Day. When doorbell rang, almost dropped dish I was carrying to table. Lily squeezed my arm as she passed, whispered that she had my back no matter what. Kids looked up curiously, sensing something important was happening. That's the thing about moments you've dreaded. When they finally arrive, they're simultaneously worse and better than you imagined. Introductions were awkward. Richard kept calling Lily Laura, despite corrections. Clara couldn't stop crying whenever she looked at kids, which was freaking Lucy out. Thomas and Katie were least awful, making actual efforts at normal conversation, though Thomas kept dropping hints about family helping family. After dinner, Lily took kids upstairs for baths and bedtime, giving me look that clearly said, "Text if you need extraction." Then it was just me and them, sitting in living room. That suddenly felt too small. Richard started in on the pitch. How family sticks together. How he'd always known I'd make something of myself. How they just needed little help to get back on their feet. $20,000. Just a loan, of course. I let him finish, then asked him if he remembered what he said to me on my 18th birthday. He looked blank. I reminded him, "At least you can't disappoint me anymore. Once you're not legally my problem." Asked Clara if she remembered what she did when Richard threw my acceptance letter to community college in trash. Nothing. She'd done nothing. Asked Thomas if he remembered telling my first girlfriend I was probably gay anyway. When she came to house looking for me, they squirmed, made excuses. Richard started to get that dangerous edge to his voice. That used to make me shrink. But here's the thing. I wasn't shrinking anymore. Was 15 years and million miles. From that person, went to my office, came back with envelope. handed it to Richard. Inside was check for $73.50. Richard looked at it confused, asked what hell this was supposed to be. I told him, in 2010, that was exactly what Greyhound ticket from Billings to our hometown would have cost, exact amount it would have taken. For me to make it back home, from where they abandoned me, silence was absolute. Then Richard started shouting, called me ungrateful, selfish, said I'd always been disappointment. Greatest hits album of my childhood. Playing one last time. I didn't argue, didn't shout back. Just stood up. Told them it was time to leave. Clara tried different approach. Tears. Guilt. How could I do this to family? Thomas went cold. Mask of friendly brother completely dropped. Katie just looked embarrassed. For all of them. When they finally left, Richard crumpling check. Throwing it on our front step. I closed door. Leaned against it. Legs suddenly shaky. Lily came downstairs. Asked if I was okay. I nodded. Not trusting my voice, we cleaned up dinner dishes in silence. Checked on sleeping kids. Got ready for bed. Like it was any other night. As I was setting security system, pulled up front door camera on my phone. They were still in driveway. Arguing. Richard gesturing wildly. Clara crying. Thomas looking at our house. With expression I recognized too well. Envy mixed with hatred. Finally, they got in their rental car. Drove away. I've never seen or heard from them again. Don't expect to. Chapter is closed. That's the thing about revenge. Best kind isn't something you do. It's something you live. Every happy moment with my kids. Every inside joke with Lily. Every quiet Sunday morning. With nothing to fear. Every single ordinary day. In life built on my terms. I never made it back home. I did something better. I built one.